Okay, hello everyone. Just gonna start doing my review, I guess. I was gonna do this earlier in the day, but I was too tired. Uh, so yeah, Future Circuit comes out tomorrow. Uh, let's just start. Just click see more details and just start going through the cards. So these are the notable cards, I guess, that they want to show off. I don't know why they're showing off Dark Lady instead of Farm Girl, but whatever. So yeah, let's just go in order, I guess. I mean, most of the good cards in this box are mostly going to be generics, I feel. Let's just go for it. First up is Droll and Lockbird, I guess. Droll is during either player's turn, if your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, except during the draw phase, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, and then for the rest of this turn, neither player can add a card from their deck to their hand. So this is what they hit those cards on that random ban list were for, because Droll does interact with those cards in a weird way, where if you activate, after your opponent like searches something, if you activate one of like Disturbance Strategy and then change Droll, then Droll will activate. They'll shuffle their hand into their deck, and then they can't draw again. So it is a little silly, but besides that, Droll isn't that great in Duel Links, at least, because there's not really many decks that like search a bunch. There's like Infernities, I guess. I can't really think of any other deck that like searches a bunch in one turn. Usually most decks like search one card and then special summon the rest of them. So yeah, Droll is probably not going to be super great, at least for now. They might release decks in the future that'll draw a bunch or like search a bunch. Next up is, let's skip over Cosmos for now, because like that's just the entire archetype that I would have to go over. Next up, let's go with Firewall Dragon. It just takes 2+ monsters, so you can make this from a Link 2 plus 2 monsters, a Link 3 plus 1 monster, 4 monsters just in general. So it's very generic, very easy to make. It's once while this card is face up on the field, it has a quick effect where you can target monsters on the field or graveyard up to the numbers this card is co-linked to, return them to the hand, and if a monster this card points to is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Cyber-style monster from your hand. And both of those are hard once per turns. So really you're using it for the first effects, because the second effect is pretty Cyber specific. There's like a couple decks that can use it, but like with it being a hard once per turn, it's not super great. If it wasn't hard once per turn, like before pre-errata, then it would like lead to a bunch of FTKs, even in Duel Links, though we don't really have like many Cannon Soldier like cards in here in the game, but like still, there'd probably be some way to take advantage of that. But its first effect is just a quick effect bounce. There are a couple decks that could probably just set this up turn 1, just for 1 bounce on a monster, which is decent. Like the only way to stop Firewall Dragon would be like Forbidden Chalice going second, because you can't book a Moonlink monsters. Yeah. Let's see, what decks could even take advantage of it though? Because like it's obviously a good card, but you would have to be able to summon it, so that means getting a total of at least 5 monsters on the field. I think Gokis could probably do it, because they do special summon a decent amount, and they do have like Great Ogre points downwards, so, and Jet Ogre also points downwards, so there are monsters that can actually make use of this. Like, let me think. I think the combo is like just Suprex plus any Goki besides Headbat. No Headbats. No, just Goki. Suprex plus any Goki would equal like Jet Ogre plus Firewall Dragon, I think, if I'm doing the combo in my head correctly. Because you would normal summon Suprex, special summon the Goki, use those two for Jet Ogre, search rematch, search headbat. Oh, you need one more other Goki, I think. And that would only be 3 materials. Okay, so I might have... there probably are decks that can actually summon Firewall Dragon turn 1 with a downward pointing link arrow pointing to it or something, but can't think of any at the moment. Next up, Nightmare Phoenix. So it's 2+ monsters with different names. So if it's Link summoned, you can discard a card and target one card in the field, shuffle it into the deck. Then if it was co-linked when this effect was activated, you can draw one card. While any co-linked Nightmare monsters are on the field, for your normal draw in your draw phase, draw one card for each different card name among those co-linked Nightmare monsters instead of drawing just one card. So the second effect probably won't come up. You're mostly using it as the removal effect because the removal is really strong. It's just one targeted spin on a Link monster, and this card is just really easy to make in general. 2+ monsters is extremely simple. Just need any Link 2 plus any monster would equal Nightmare Unicorn. I mean, it's not. There are like the rank 4 pool is still better in terms of monster removal, but this is versatile in that like both. You can just shuffle anything away on the field. You can even shuffle back your own cards, which is useful in certain applications. Not in Duel Links, but like I know in like OCG you can. This is the reason you can do the the Gemini FTK, because you can shuffle your stuff back into your deck. But that's not super relevant here. But yeah, first effect is just insane, especially for a linked focus deck like Salamangreats. They don't struggle to put level 4 on the field, but like it's more annoying than anything. So just having this option to remove problem cards is really good for that deck. And just in general, other link decks like maybe Gokis would definitely appreciate this. And Kotakers also appreciate this. Yeah, pretty much any link deck would just use this as their main removal tool. Next up is World Legacy Succession. Target one monster in a graveyard, special summon it to a zone your link monster points to. Pretty simple monster reborn effect. Like its restricting isn't super hard to fulfill for like any link deck really. This is especially good in just like Cybers and like Kotaku decks. Pretty simple effect, I don't really have much to say about it. It's also searchable, I think, because the Mech Knight Link searches World Legacy cards, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. I don't want to look it up. I could close this and go look it up, but I'll do that later. We'll go over to Cosmos later, and the Magical Muskets. I skipped those two. Next up is Amphibious Swarm Ship Amblo Whale. What a mouthful. Just 2+ effect monsters, which is really easy to make. And gains 200 attack for each link monster in graveyards. And you can only use the effects once per turn. If it's destroyed, you can target a link 3 or lower. Special summon it. And if a link 3 or lower on the field is destroyed by a battle or card effect while it's engraved, banish this card and then destroy a card in the field. So it's not super great just because it's just like it's just a sort of big beater for Link 4. The grave effects are just kind of slow because you have to summon it and then get into the graveyard. It at least floats into with the Link 3 that procs the last effect. But like still, this is just kind of a lot of resources for not a huge amount of payoff. Bottomless Trap Holes is really good, but it's part of the selection box, so you've probably already seen this. Dark Hole is very interesting. It just destroys all monsters on the field. Very iconic old card. It being a normal spell does kind of suck because you can't choose to go first or second. So if you just go first in this, it's kind of a brick because you don't really want to destroy your own field. But going second is like definitely the premier removal option. especially since it's better than Lightning Vortex at least going second because you don't need to discard for it. So I feel like it will see play. It just won't be as widespread as it might be if Duel Links wasn't 4-bad the way it was. Next up, Nightmare Corrupt Herbally. This one is when this card is normal summoned, you can target a Link monster in your graveyard, special it to a zone so it points to this card, but change it to its attack to 0, also negate its effects. You cannot special summon monsters except Link monsters, and if this card is in its owner's control sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card to your opponent's field in defense position. So yeah, the first effect might come up, but it's not really super relevant. It's pretty easy to search just because it's Cyberse. And we just got Nightmare Mermaid, which also just special summons it from deck, so it's very easy to access. That second effect is really what makes this really strong. You can just give it to your opponent, and they can't special summon unless they can link off the ability, which isn't a big deal in like Cyberse decks, in like Kotalker decks or like Salamander Great decks, but it does hurt like strategies that aren't link focused. Like non-link focused decks might like run one copy of Link Disciple or Salamander Great Balinx just to out this card. I mean, it's definitely a scary card, especially since it's so searchable with Mermaid. I don't know why they even printed Mermaid in this game, because Mermaid is not a fun card. But yeah, Ghibli is something to watch out for, especially if you're not playing a Link focused deck. Next up, Trickstar Bella Madonna. Let's see, let me just check how many other Trickstars are in this. Not really many. Yeah, I can just go over this one pretty simply by itself. So this one is a Link 4 that takes 2+ Trickstar monsters, and when this Link Summon card points to no monsters, it's unaffected by other cards' activated effects. If this card points to no monsters, you can inflict 100 damage to your opponent for each Trickstar monster in your graveyard with a different name. So it's just a Towers monster for Trickstars, which is decent. Its requirements, Trickstars don't really have like a trouble special summoning a bunch of Trickstars though. I know this kind of coincides with this next card, but Trickstar Festival, but still, Bella Madonna by itself is just kind of meh, especially since it's pretty easy to out, even with its first effect, even with its protection. Just because it has this upward pointing arrow, you just summon something pointing to it and they're just kind of screwed. So overall, Bella Madonna is not super great. And the burn is like kind of useless. It's like such a minuscule amount. Next up is Goki the Master Ogre. Requires 2+ Goki monsters, and it's Link 4. Once per turn is a quick effect. You can return to the hand any number of Goki monsters you control that this card points to, then target the same number of face-up cards your opponent controls. They have their effects negated until the end of this turn. This card can attack all monsters you control once each. If your opponent controls a face-up monster, this card can only target their monster with the highest attack for attacks, your choice if tied. So 2800 is pretty big, and it kind of has the Purgatorio effect where it just attacks all your opponent's monsters. It does have to do it in the specific order, which does suck a little bit if they have like a 3k monster and you can't really run it over. But this is a really good OTK enabler, and the first effect is okay as like a going first option. Quick effect negates are pretty decent. Does it target? Yeah, it targets. That's not super relevant. There's not really many non-targeting like monsters in the metagame right now, but still, targeting is definitely a downside. And you are bouncing your own board presence, but like you're not losing any card advantage for doing that. So it's not super big deal. Master Ogre is definitely a good Goki card, but I still don't think Gokis will really be like super great. Next up, Nightmare Phoenix. Okay, There it goes. 2 monsters with different names, and if it's link summoned, discard a card, target a spell, trap your opponent controls, destroy it. And then when it's co-linked, you can draw 1 card when you activate that effect. And co-linked monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. So Nightmare Phoenix, just an insane card. Just generic back row removal for any deck. This definitely kills like any battle trap decks, unless you can like set a bunch of battle traps. Battle traps are just basically dead with Nightmare Phoenix in the game. And just being good spot removal in general is just insane. Like even the rank 4s don't even have any like generic spell trap destruction, do they? Like there's Diamond Direwolf, I guess, but that makes you minus way harder than Nightmare Phoenix does, because you lose board presence as well. This is just a simple discard, which can be like a plus in certain decks. Yeah, Phoenix is just insane, and you're probably gonna make it. Part of the reason like Nightmare Mermaid is gonna be so annoying is because you can summon this pretty easily, which is 2 monsters, and summon Nightmare Mermaid, then just summon out the Ibly, link those 2 off for any other link 2, and just summon the Ibly on your opponent's side of the field. But yeah, Phoenix, just insane. You will probably need to at least get 1 copy of this, maybe 2 if you're running Nightmare Mermaid. Next up is Trickstar Festival. This special summons 2 Trickstar tokens, and if a Trickstar you control that was special summoned or the extract would be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead, and it restricts you into only summoning Trickstar monsters, which isn't a huge deal for Trickstar decks. But just free link material, 2 free link materials is really nice, especially since most Trickstar monsters don't really restrict any like tokens, I don't think. So this is just basically any free link 2, maybe even a link 3 for 2 cards, which is really good for Trickstars. Trickstars themselves though still aren't super great, but this definitely makes them slightly better just by making the link boss monsters way easier to summon. Next up is Expendable Die. Tribute 1 warrior type monster, then target 1 card in the field, destroy it, and if you do, draw 1 card. Pretty simple, Ballista Squad-like effect, and it draws you a card, so it's a 0 in card advantage, which is really good for any warrior decks. Definitely really good for a deck like Goki, especially, because you're even going plus off of this effect. So yeah, Goki is definitely get a huge boost with this box for all the SRs. And then Dark Eruption and DDD Destiny King Zero Laplace, I think those are the selection box cards. I've definitely seen Laplace before. I didn't realize it before looking up though, but like Dark Eruption has shown up in NPC decks, but I didn't realize it wasn't a card you could actually obtain until like the selection box. But it's not super notable. Next up are the rare cards, and now I'll finally, yeah, let's go over to Cosmos now, since I'm done with all the SR cards that are pretty notable. And actually, there is a couple one-off cards in rare that I might want to go over first. Let's start off with one-time passcode. Yeah, that's just pretty simple. It's a token card. Might be decent in the Cyber stacks. Trickstar Delphindium. This is a link 3 that requires 2+ Trickstar monsters, and when a card declares an attack while pointing to a Trickstar monster, while this card declares an attack while pointing to a Trickstar monster, you can target your banished Trickstar cards up to the number of link monsters you control. Your opponent controls, add them to your hand. And if you do, this card gains 1000 attack. So it's pretty meh. 22 is pretty big for Trickstars, but like it's still not super great. And it requires your opponent to actually be playing link monsters to get the 1k boost. If they are though, this does really help the deck because it's pretty big. Next up, Detonate Deleter. What is this? I feel like I've seen this before, but it doesn't look. It's probably not very good. It's a Link 3 that requires 2+ Cyber type monsters, and once per turn at the start of the damage step, when this battles a face-up monster that's not a Link 3 or higher, destroy that monster. Oh, okay, so this is like a Catastrophe-like effect. Okay. And once per turn, tribute 1 monster this card points to, then target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy it. Huh, actually this card isn't super bad for Cyber stacks. A Catastrophe-like effect is pretty decent because it outs cards like what's the Saber Dancer? Moonlight Saber Dancer. Yeah, that's the card I'm thinking of. And the second effect is pretty decent spot removal. So overall, not a bad card. Goki the Solid Ogre, another Goki Link monster. It's a Link 3 that requires 2+ Goki monsters and cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects while it points to a Goki monster. Once per turn, quick effect, you can target 1 Goki monster in your in your main monster zone, except itself, and then move that target you control to your main monster zone discard points to. So the quick effect is just kind of meh. I mean, I know it's to set up the first effect, but it's kind of whatever. The first effect is decent protection at least, and then 2400 is pretty, like it's an okay attack value. It can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, so it is pretty annoying to get rid of. If you can get like 2 of them on the field and they point to each other. Let's see, any other like cards that are notable? I think these are cards that are already in the game. Yeah, these are definitely just reprints. Abram is a decent reprint though. Let me just check to make sure there's no other one-off cards that might be decent. What is this? No. The Link Hole? What is this card? If you control Link 4 or higher monster, destroy monsters your opponent controls up to a number of Link 3 or higher monsters you control. No. That one requires way too much setup. Limiko doesn't. This is decent, right? If you have any Cyber type Link monsters in your graveyard, place 1 counter on this card for each of those monsters, and if you do, special summon 1 Code Talker monster from your extra deck to equip it with this card. No. Okay, yeah, no, this isn't that great. Okay, so I'm not missing much, just skipping over the rest of these. Let me just make sure. Protocol Gardna cannot target monsters as points 2 for attacks. Huh. If you get 2 of these out and they point to each other, then you can create an attack lock. That's kind of interesting. Not super great though, because you can still target them with like card effects, but still. Definitely an interesting lock, I guess. Binary Blader. When this card declares an attack on a monster, it can declare a second effect attack. And opponent's monster can't be destroyed by that battle. You can banish it. Okay. Yeah, that's not great. It requires 2 normal monsters. Really annoying to bring out. And you have to like co-link it twice to get the best effects. Nah. Track Black. You can target 1 monster you control this card points to. Each time it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, draw 1 card. That's pretty meh. I mean, it's a generic Link 2 still, which might make it decent in something, but definitely not great. Yeah, I don't see anything else notable in those rarities, so let's go over the big 2 archetypes that are coming out, which are Cosmo and Magical Mustards. Let's just start with Cosmo first, I guess. So, Farm Girl says, during either player's turn, you can banish this card and special summon 1 level 4 or higher Cosmo monster from your hand, and you can only use that once per turn. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, pay 500, add 1 Cosmo card from your deck to your hand. Farm Girl is definitely a staple in the deck. It's just a searcher for, like, once it inflicts battle damage, it's just a good searcher, and special summons a level 4 or higher Cosmo monster from your hand. And there are a really good Cosmo monsters that are level 4 or higher. It's like, that's pretty much all the ships. Like, Cosmos have the gimmick where, like, it's Star Wars, so the lower level ones are the pilots, and then the higher level ones are the ships that they pilot. Next up is Cosmo Tin Can. During either player's turn, banish this card, special summon level Special summon one level 2 or higher Cosmo monster from your hand. Once per turn during the end phase, you can pay 500, reveal 3 Cosmo monsters with different Cosmo cards with different names from your deck, and your opponent randomly picks one to add to your hand, and send the rest to your graveyard. So Tin Can is like also like one of the most important cards because it's the main playmaker. That last effect gets you basically whatever you need. Your opponent doesn't really choose, so it's kind of random. But if you get something really good, Cosmo Tin Can basically starts all your plays. And sending them to a grave is just graveyard setup, so you can like revive it with Called the Haunted or something. Next up is Cosmo Dark Lady. It's a level 5, and during either player's turn, you can banish this card, special summon one level 6 or higher Cosmo monster from your hand. Once per turn during every player's turn, when another monster's effect is activated, pay 1000, negate the activation you do, and if you do, destroy that monster. Dark Lady is just really good. 22 is not like the greatest attack point value, but for a card with a monster negate, that's pretty big. And it's pretty easy to summon just off of Tin Can or Farm Girl. So yeah, definitely a good card. Next up is Cosmo Good Witch. I don't think people play this. During either player's turn, you can banish this card, special summon one level 5 or higher. Once per turn, you can pay 500. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls, change it to face down. Oh, actually, Good Witch isn't too bad, actually. It's like a Book of Moon on 1800. 500 is kind of steep for that effect, but like that's still not too bad. Next up is Slip Rider. Slip Rider says if it's no more special summon, destroy a spell trap on the field. And if it's destroyed by a power card effect and sent to a graveyard, banish this card from the graveyard and special summon one level 4 lower Cosmo monster from your deck. Yeah, Slip Rider is really strong. Just popping any spell trap is pretty good. 23 is a decent attack value. What else? Its floating effects is really good. You can it basically just floats into one of your pilots again, so you can summon like a different Cosmo from your hand. So yeah, Slip Rider is really good. Forerunner is a level 7. Cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects. During your standby phase, gain 1000 life points. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to a graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one level 6 or lower Cosmo monster from your deck. Forerunner is definitely annoying, at least, because not being able to be targeted is really good protection. 2800 isn't too strong. Like Blue Eyes could beat over it, but still, it does have good protection. Next up is Cosmo Strawman, another of the pilots. During either player's turn, banish this card, special summon one level 3 or higher Cosmo monster from your hand. Once per turn, you can pay 500 life points, target one of your banished Cosmo monsters, special summon it, but if its effects are negated, also destroy it during the end phase. Strawman isn't the greatest Cosmo, but it's like decent. It can like recover one of your banished ships and just like put it back, basically. Next up is Delta Shuttle. Once per turn, send one Cosmo monster from your deck to a graveyard, then target one face-up monster on the graveyard. It leaves the attack and defense equal to that sent monster's level times 100. And if this card is destroyed by a battle or card effect and sent to a graveyard, special summon one level 4 or lower Cosmo monster. This is like the least good of the things to float into to summon on your opponent's turn. I think you maybe might play one of these just because you do need a critical mass of ships. But like you don't really want to play this one. Next one, Cosmojo. Target one Cosmo monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, banish one card your opponent controls or in your graveyard. Cosmojo is really good actually, just because it non-targeting non-destruction removal is just really strong. It is like a -1, but you can target your own like Slip Rider for example, and it floats into something else. So yeah, Cosmojo is definitely a good card, and it's pretty searchable just off of Tin Can. Next up is that it for Cosmos? There's probably lower rarities, right? Oh, dude, yeah, there are. Okay, Dogfighter. Level 6, once per turn during the standby phase, summon a Dogfighter token. And if this card is destroyed by a battle or card effect, it floats. Yeah. So not super great. This is also pretty bad for ship. Like most of the rare ships are probably the best ones you're probably gonna run. Next one is Sword Troopers. During your player's turn, it floats. You can summon any level 4 or higher Cosmo monster, and then pay 1,000, target a Psychic type Cosmo in your graveyard, special summon it. This isn't too bad. Like it's basic. It brings back your Dark Witch. What's the name? It's Dark Witch, right? Because Good Witch, there's Good Witch there, and then no, it's Dark Lady. Okay, I'm thinking of the wrong one. But yeah, Dark Lady. It can bring back Dark Lady. Can it bring back Good Witch? Good Witch is also psychic. Yeah, it can. So it can bring back both of those. Aren't they all psychics actually? Yeah, Farpeel's also psychic. I kind of forgot about that. Tin Can's a psychic. I thought it was a machine. Okay, never mind. All the low-level Cosmos, like all the pilots, are psychics. So yeah, this brings back any of them. So it's like a decent one-off. Cosmos Scaredy Lion. During either player's turn, you can banish it, special summon one level 3 or higher Cosmo monster. And then once returned, pay 500, target 3 of your banished Cosmo monsters, return them to the graveyard, inflict 2,500. No, not 2,500. 250 damage. This is not great. It's just minuscule burn. The recovery might be nice, I guess, like to recover your banished ships. So you might run this as a one-off, but like it's not super great. Next up is another ship, Cosmo Landwalker. The Cosmo monster card you control would be destroyed by a battle or card effect. You can destroy one other Cosmo card you control instead, and if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to a graveyard, banish this card from your graveyard. Special summon one level 5 or lower Cosmo monster from your deck. I don't know why I read out the whole effect, because the other effects were basically just that effect is all the ships have. It just summons something with a lower level than it itself. But yeah, it's a decent card actually. Destroying one other Cosmo card is nice because that like procs their floating effects. So yeah, like basically the thing is with Cosmos, even the bad ships, like you might still want to play because you just want to like increase your flow rate basically. Because how Cosmos work is that they can just keep floating into other Cosmos. Like all the Cosmo ships just keep floating into lower level other Cosmo ships basically, and that makes them really sticky and annoying to get rid of. So even though Landwalker's effect isn't super great, you probably might still play one of it. Next up is Cosmorning. Monsters destroyed by battle with Cosmo monsters you control are shuffled into a deck instead of going to a graveyard. Banish this card from your graveyard. The first time you would take battle damage from a battle involving a Cosmo monster, this turn gain that much life points. This one isn't super great. It is searchable, so you might play one of it if you really want to. But like, its continuous effect is pretty mediocre. It doesn't really help that much. And its battle damage, graveyard floating effect is just kind of meh. Is that it for the Cosmos? And that's it for all the Cosmos. Next up is the Magical Muskets. So Magical Muskets are a series of archetype of monsters which proc their effects if they have a spell trap that's activated in the same column as they are in. So let's just start off with Kid Brave, which is a decent one. During either player's turn, you can activate Magical Musket spell traps from your hand, so that protects them from like MST, which is really strong. And all the Magical Musket main deck monsters share this effect, I'm pretty sure. And this unique effect is when a spell trap is activated in its column, discard a Magical Musket card and draw 2 cards. So pretty decent like Pot of Greed like effect. Next up is what's the next Magical Musket? Cross Domination. This is a quick play spell that reads: if you control a Magical Musket monster, target one face-up monster in the field until the end of its turn, changes its attack to 0. Also, its effects negated. So yeah, this is just like really better Forbidden Chalice for Magical Muskets. Like that's a really good effect. just a monster negate plus attack debuff. You can't even activate this in like damage step, and your opponent to like reduce your opponent's monster to 0. And is that all the high rarity magical muskets? Huh. I guess all of them are low rarity. So yeah, magical muskets seem pretty cheap to build at least. Next up is Caspar. This one's pretty important, right? If a spell trap is activated in this card's column except during the damage step, so you can't use it with the card just covered cross domination in the damage step, but you still can use it in general, and it just adds a magical musket from your deck to your hand, but not the same card as the activated card. Excuse me for a second. Sorry, I just had to cough. But yeah, Caspar is low rarity, and it's a searcher. Wait, they made Caspar low rarity? Huh. Caspar is like really important because it's a searcher. But yeah, that's really good. You can just basically chain into a bunch of other magical musket spell traps. Next up is Starfire. This one's unique effect is special summon a level 4 or lower magical musket from your deck in defensive position when you activate it. Okay, yeah, this is pretty good too. This just sets up more columns that you can activate your magical musket spell traps in. But yeah, Starfire is decent. Next up is Zachiel. This one's high level. Tribute summon this card by tributing 1 magical musket monster. Same as shared effect. And then its unique effect is during your opponent's end phase, draw cards equal to the number of magical musket cards you activated this turn, while this is face up on the field. Yeah, no, this one's not super great just because it's annoying to get out. Being level 8 and even requiring 1 tribute is still not super easy to summon. Next up is one of the traps, Desperado. Target a face-up card in the field, destroy it. Pretty simple effect. Just a straight +1. I mean, it's an even trade, but you are proccing your magical musket effects if you're putting in the same column. And you can just activate this from hand with a magical musket monster on field. And then, is that it? That's it for the rare magical muskets, and any lower rarity ones. Let's go back down to the N rarity. Doc. And this one's unique effect is add 1 magical musket card from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, this one's decent. It's not as good as Caspar, but it's still pretty decent. Next up is Calamity. Target a magical musket monster in your graveyard, special summon it. Okay, Calamity is not too bad. It's like just a monster reborn. Next up is Wild. Target 3 magical musket cards in your graveyard, shuffle all 3 into a deck and draw 1 card. Okay, so this one's decent floating too. Okay, so the N rarity magical muskets you probably just want to play one of, especially since they're searchable off of Caspar. Caspar searches any card, right? Is it just spell traps? Let me just check again. Want to make sure I'm not spreading misinformation. Yep, it's any card. Okay. Yeah, Caspar searches any of the magical muskets, so it doesn't really matter. For like the less good ones, you don't really need to play 3 of them. Next up is Steady Hands. Target a magical musket you control, its attack and defense becomes double. But it cannot attack directly when you activate this card. It's a pretty simple effect. Like, a straight attack buff is not super great, but it is searchable, so it's not too bad. Next up is Dancing Needle. Target 3 cards in graveyard, banish them. So this is like a extra DD Crow basically. So yeah, pretty good card. Probably gonna play like 1 or 2 of them, especially since like there are a decent amount of graveyard focused decks in the meta right now. There's like Galaxy, Infinity's not really meta, it's more rogue. Mech Knights do care about the graveyard also. Yeah, no, this card is pretty good. I'd say run like maybe 1 or 2 of them. And Fiendish Duel. Magical monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. If this card in your possession is sent to a graveyard by opponent's card effect, you can add one magical musket card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. It's continuous, so it does block out a zone, but like, its floating effect is nice. I'd say you might want to run one of these, especially since it's searchable. And that's it for the magical muskets. Overall, magical muskets, they're really cheap at least, because Caspar is only a rare, which is surprising, even though he's probably one of the best ones. And the best spell trap they're releasing, which is Cross Domination, is only a super rare, so you only really need to dig the box twice to get the full magical musket deck. Cosmo, on the other hand, is pretty expensive, just because Tin Can you definitely need 3 of. Farm Girl is also typically a 3 of. So yeah, both of these cards are 3 ofs, and they're both URs. So Cosmos are going to be expensive. Overall, they're okay. They have Slip Rider at least. They don't have Dark Destroyer, which destroys a monster. But Slip Rider's still fine, and they have the big one. What is it? Forerunner? Forerunner's really strong. At least it has strong protection, and it's really annoying to get rid of. So Cosmos might be like a decent-ish rogue deck. I definitely think Magical Muskets will be pretty strong. At least in Duel Links, just because there's only 20 cards, there definitely can be more consistent. And just like, definitely like a good free-to-play deck, I feel. Just because they're super low rarity for most of their cards. Kid Brave's only really, you don't need 3 of it, you only really need 2 of it, maybe. So yeah, Magical Muskets do seem pretty good. I don't know how competitive they really will be, but they seem like they will be like at least Rogue. Maybe even like Tier 3 or Tier 2, potentially. And that's pretty much it, right? Overall this box is pretty good. Lots of good generic cards at least, and it at least has like, both of the archetypes coming on in this box are pretty interesting. Let me just check to see if I glossed over anything that might be good. I did gloss over a couple of the World Legacy cards. That one's not good. Not good. This one is an Omni Negate, but you need to have a Link monster, so it's pretty annoying to actually make. Let me just check it. Anything else like interesting in this? Corruption is continuous spell. Okay, you can float into a World Legacy. That's okay. Maybe in like that might be okay in like a World Chalice deck, but overall it's not super great. Nightmare, take no battle damage from attacks involving your co-linked monsters. Move on. Okay, no, this one's not. This one is awful. It's literally just like set and switch. Okay, but yeah, that's pretty much the entire box. So yeah, overall box is pretty good for generic cards. Definitely good support, like decent support for Gokis. Cosmos and Magical Muskets look promising. Lots of good generic cards like Nightmare Unicorn, Firewall Dragon, Dark Hole, Bombless Trap Hole. So yeah, this box I feel is definitely worth a dig. Next up on the agenda is me going over DSOD level up rewards, because they did increase the level cap for DSOD from 35 to 40. So let me just head over there to that world and just go over it. I'll just be pointing out any notable cards that they are putting more copies of. So 2 more copies of Melody of Awakening Dragon. I'm pretty sure this card's still at 3 though, so you can't like play a bunch. You still really can't play it this many copies of this card with Levianeer, but you can't. This is definitely a good like consistency boost for Blue Eyes at least. Let's see what Smokeaba's. Grantusk Dragon 2 times. Is this a new card or an old card? If this is normal or special summon, target 2 other cards on the field, destroy them, and it's gained 600. But it's a level 8, so that's pretty annoying to bring out. Like, if you can bring this out pretty easily, this is definitely a good card though, because destroying 2 other cards on the field, really strong effect. Next up
I will do
is
anything for a friend.
Yugimoto. Another copy of this alternative DMG. Not DMG is still not a great card, but this is definitely a decent. More copies of that alt art is nice. And Clear Kuribo is during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect that would inflict damage, discard this card, negate the activation. When an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, banish this card from the graveyard, draw one card. If it's a monster, you can special summon it, and then change the attack target to it. So the last effect of Clear Kuribo is actually pretty good. This is probably going to see play in like certain mill decks, and you can just discard it to actually get rid of it. But yeah, last effect is pretty good because it just either it draws you a card and special summons a monster. Next up is Joey Wheeler, and it's just 2 more copies of the Alt Order Blue Eyes, not notable at all.
If I'm here, I'm ready to play.
Let's see, Taya, another copy of Jalen Duo, or is this, wait, do we already have Jalen Duo? I don't remember. But Jalen Duo can't be destroyed by battle, but if you take any battle damage, it destroys itself. So it's not super great, because we have like Spirit Reaper and other cards that don't have as like easy of ways to destroy itself. But yeah, these kind of battle like protection monsters are just not great anymore.
You will learn.
Igami though, I did notice this even before the stream. Igami's level ups are really strong. They're finally added Vijam as its own card, so you don't have to rely on the skill to get copies of Vijam. And we've finally gotten Crimson Nova, which is just an insane card. If you haven't read it, it says, cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by revealing 3 other cubic monsters in your hand with different names. Can't be special summoned by other ways. Unaffected by other monsters' activate effects whose original attack is 3,000 or less. And when this attacking card destroys a monster by battle, you can activate this effect. It can make it a second attack during the battle phase. And with 3,000 attack, that is like insane. And then during the end phase, each player takes 1,500 damage. So overall, Crimson Nova is just an absolutely insane card for OTKs. And its protection is like nothing to scoff at. You can only really get rid of it with spell traps, because there's not really many monsters whose original attacks are 3,000 or higher. So yeah, Crimson Nova is an insane card. Really easy to summon in cubics because you're probably just playing all cubics. But yeah, let's move on to Sarah. Sarah has another copy, 2 more copies of Amaterasu. Not super great just because Amaterasu isn't great. And 2 more copies of Dustlos the Mega Monarch. That is nice for just Monarch decks. Akora has another copy of Zoma. Is that just the last copy? Yeah, it is the last copy. So we finally have 3 copies of Zoma, which is meh. And then 3 copies of Summoner Art that was pretty notable for decks like Cleaforts. And I made the full circle, right? Yep, that's the full circle.
I will resurrect the Pharaoh.
Okay, yep, so that's it for today's stream. That's all the DSOD cards, and I've reviewed the box. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, so I probably won't be streaming because I'll be doing like family stuff. But enjoy your New Year's Eve. Please subscribe if you want to see more live streams like this. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.